Good day. We have, we need, we must have. And we have much more to learn about the wonders of water, aqua, H2O to name a few terms used to label, well, what we are generally labeling water. The original, omnipresent one. From an easy-to-see standpoint, that is. Anyhow, anyone who literally is anyone will have an ongoing involvement with the aqua flow. And flow, on and on, just at an introduction of a conversation about H2O is what one could and was about to do. It's just that this isn't quite the place for such depth. Yet, and as I typed, right, it slipped my mind that MNT, at this stage, will be producing very short segments and packing them with engaging information. With that, water may have its own big playlist on this little MNT channel, and water will be this first segment of a playlist we are going to title W3D, which is an acronym that stands for What Will We Do? So, with that, our topic for this segment is water, battle for groundwater rights. You know what, we are going to place this segment inside a playlist titled AKA, which is an acronym for Alarm Clock Area, with the first letter in clock being the letter K. Let's begin with what is groundwater.
However, some groundwater is so deep that it's difficult to get to. These bodies of groundwater are called confined groundwater. Humans depend on groundwater for drinking water and for growing crops. This groundwater can be reached by digging a well. There are thousands and thousands of wells throughout the world.
Now, what is the general consensus on groundwater rights?
You know, from the state's perspective, they will say, look, we're just the agency that enforces the law. We have this request for a use from Nestle. We have to evaluate this based on these criteria. If you just wrote in and said, I don't like Nestle and I don't think they should be able to do this, they read that, but that's not going to inform their reasonable use decision. That's what the state would say, if that makes sense.
What is the financial benefit, if there is one, to the state?
The state really isn't, other than they pay state taxes as any other farmer that's withdrawing, say a business tax or that kind of thing. What I'm trying to say is they're not paying any more money because they are withdrawing more water. So that is, in some ways, part of the outrage.
Groundwater. Humans depend on groundwater for drinking water and for growing crops.
Great Lakes have been perceived to be a target.
It's our water. They don't have a right to take it.
Very good. Now, for the topic of this segment, we have a battle for groundwater. Take a look at these few examples of a battle for groundwater.
How is our water being polluted? Agriculture uses chemicals to increase farming productivity. Ironically, implemented to counter a diminishing water supply, these chemicals pollute the groundwater.
Why does Michigan let a global megacorporation guzzle our groundwater for practically nothing? And for billions of gallons of pristine spring water, Michigan charges Nestle less than $1,000 per year. The Swiss company Nestle has been pumping Michigan water under the brand Ice Mountain for 17 years.
The company that makes Crystal Geyser natural alpine spring water pleaded guilty Thursday morning, agreeing to pay a criminal fine of $5 million. According to court documents, CG Roxanne LLC put water with arsenic at 5 to 8 times the federal limit into a man-made pond known as the Arsenic Pond along Highway 395, and it was happening for about 15 years. They were contacted by the California Department of Toxic Substances Control when they hired 2 companies to transport and then treat the wastewater. Court documents show it was actually taken to a facility not meant to receive it and then dumped into a sewer without treatment. The 2 transportation and treatment companies go on trial April 21st and face a fine up to $8 million.
Conservationists are trying to stop Nestle from pumping more water from a well in rural Michigan. Nestle got a permit last month to increase production from the well in Everett, Michigan. The company pumping more water will further damage the area's resources. Now brought in $4.5 billion in sales last year.
This is our new 80,000 square foot expansion. So
the controversy.
You can live without oil and you can live without gold, but you can't live without water.
Peggy Case and John McLean are with Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation. In January, the group sent a letter to state regulators blaming Nestle for significant loss of surface waters and aquatic life in 2 creeks near the well.
The levels are down, almost impossible to find trout in what used to be 2 cold water trout streams.
In 2016, Nestle applied for a permit to pump an additional 150 gallons per minute at White Pine Springs. The state received more than 80,000 comments from citizens about the plan. Only 57 supported it. The state received more than 80,000 comments from citizens about the plan. Only 57 supported it. Nestle's request failed the state's initial environmental impact test, but after a lengthy review, it received approval last month.
We have 33.53.
They think that their little dipsticks and their little monitors somehow tell a story. They don't.
Resource managers, as myself, our job is to ensure that the withdrawal is sustainable.
On a muddy walk, Anderson Vincent showed us where the groundwater in question emerges into springs. Do you have a sense of what level would be unsustainable? Is it?
I don't.
Do you have a sense of what level would be unsustainable? Is it?
I don't. We a minute and really felt it was, 400 gallons was extremely
unsustainable. Is it?
Yes. Since the issues of
are so angry.
Rebecca Warren is a Michigan state senator.
It feels like a company's profits are being put ahead of the needs of the citizens of Michigan. And
Nestle does not own this water. This water belongs to the people and the ecosystem.
Respect that passion.
Stanwood, Michigan.
I don't want to be without water. Nobody does. Hopefully they'll work that out.
In addition to expanding the plant, Nestle is planning to pump more water from this rural well. But
and it doesn't want a limit. In the LA area itself, which is about 18 million, if it was on its own water, it would only be 3 million.
It started from a meeting that had up in the town of New Haven. Naturally, Perrier hired a consultant to study all of the effects of the pumping and so forth. They said it would be fine, there would be no problem with it.
I talked to my hydrology buddy and I said, Tom, he said that this isn't going to affect the spring. And Tom snorted, he's not a hydrologist, he's a hydrostitute.
And we were told up there that night by their council that we didn't have a chance in stopping them. But then we started having meetings and inviting people, and that we were just awed by the numbers of people that
The Chinese, the symbol for water, not only means water, it means control.
Developing countries are very hurt, and it's obscene.
First thing LA is going to do is try to put a lot of farmers out of work and close down the farms and take that water. First thing LA is going to do is try to put a lot of farmers out of work and close down the farms and take that water.
The morality of these issues is just as important.
When the water system doesn't work, then the civilization goes.
Wherever a river flowing free is now treated as the supplier of raw material as if it was oil, we have the generation of water wars.
Now, in close, what will we do?
We have to make, because they are withdrawing more water. So
I want to do.
A 45-year-old kicked one of the world's biggest engineering companies out of the country for its criminal behavior and told the World Bank to go the hell with it.
Bueno, 2 días después de la victoria popular, yo tuve la posibilidad de viajar a Washington. Primera vez en mi vida que salí a Estados Unidos.
There's a guy from Nestle that doesn't think water is a human right. I mean, that guy should be hunted down.
It's obviously a crazy statement that everyone would disagree with.
What are you doing on private property, man? This is private property. Get the hell out of here.
Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation, which has been protesting Nestle's practices for almost 2 decades.
2 days ago, the Bolivian government gave in and kicked Bechtel out of the country.
We must protect the
human right of water that there.
And any attempts to chill it through intimidation or use of force will not be tolerated.
M2 News Tuff, stay curious, know enough.